Hello and welcome to Heading North podcast. My name is Nick, your host as always, and this week's episode, as you may be able to tell, has come out a couple days early. And that's simply because today is October 31st, which means it's Halloween. And to get into the spooky season, I wanted to go over the 7 of the most haunted forests in the world. If you like anything you hear in this episode, make sure you go to headingnorthpodcast.com. So diving right into 7 of what I would deem as the most haunted forests in the world, we're going to start right at Hoia Baciu, Romania. So the forest of Hoia Baciu is located in Cluj-Napoca, which is a city near Transylvania. Its name is after a shepherd who went missing alongside of his 200 sheep. The area itself garnered its reputation starting in 1968 when a military technician photographed what he thought to be a UFO in one of the clearings of the forest. Now, in that same clearing, it is said that around 200 people attempted to open a portal to another dimension in these woods, in that specific area. Visitors who visit Hoia Baciu claim physical symptoms like nausea, anxiety, and the feeling of being watched. And many also report malfunctions in their electronics, i.e. dying electronics or other issues along those lines. Leading right to number 6, I wanted to go over to the other side of Europe and look at Epping Forest, England. So Epping Forest is a nearly or close to 5,900 acre ancient forest located just between Greater London and Essex. The forest has been a popular hiding ground for many highwaymen, the most notorious of which is none other than Dick Turpin, whose exploitations were romanticized after his execution in York in April of 1739. Many of his exploits were also considered to be false and now known to be false. Post-1960, many murder victims have been found in these woods as well, and it is said that if you drive up to Hangman's Hill in Epping's Forest and park yourself in neutral, your car will be pulled uphill by itself. Now, as we go a little bit south on this continent, or to the southern portion underneath of this continent, I should say, number 5, we're looking at Dow Hill Forest in India. Just about 18 miles from Darjeeling, India, lies Down Hill Forest. It is said to be the most haunted hill station in India. The area is well known for its orchard gardens and tea plantations, but Dow Hill Forest is said to be haunted by headless young boys who wander the path known as Dead Road. Local woodcutters have claimed to see a red eye peering at them in the darkness, not two, but one eye peering at them in the darkness, and others tell of a woman dressed in gray haunting the forest. Now, on the United States side of things, we have the Devil's Tramping Ground, North Carolina. Devil's Tramping Ground is located in the rolling hills of Chatham County. It is a circle 40 feet in diameter that nothing will grow, even when locals have attempted to plant seeds. It is said that anything left in this circle will be found flung out by morning, and others say anyone who spends the night in that circle are driven completely mad. Now, many of these forests that I'm talking about today are found on shows on the Discovery Channel like Ghost Hunters or Expedition Unknown and other shows just like that between Travel Channel and other channels like that. So this one in particular, I remember seeing quite a few years ago and was kind of enamored by it. No, I don't want to say enamored, but spooked out by it, I think would be the best word to say. I noticed that a lot of people did have tendencies within the show and had voiced tendencies within the show of feeling uncomfortable or aggravated, agitated, and everything in between while in this circle, and multiple items on film. And we all know that things on film aren't necessarily true if we weren't there to see them ourselves, but things that were left overnight in these shows did in fact get flung and or lost from the circle and were no longer in the place that they were left. Going back to Europe, we have the Black Forest in Germany. The Black Forest is the most forested location in southern Germany, and it is the setting for many of the Brothers Grimm stories. Some of the most notable myths of the area, not just the Brothers Grimm stories, but some of the most notable myths, as I just said, of the forest are headless horsemen mounted on white steeds, a king, and also a king who kidnaps lone women and also werewolves. So number 2 is Witchwood Forest in England. This forest is found north of Witney in Oxfordshire, and the forest is a former royal hunting ground, and though I am unclear of the cause of these legends, many report hearing the hooves of invisible horses and hands reaching out to grab them at night. The most notable sightings include apparitions of crying children in a horse-drawn carriage and the ghost of Amy Robsart, the wife of the Earl of Leicester, who died mysteriously and haunted her husband. And last but not least, we have number one. As I was speaking about in Discovery Channel, there's been a lot of episodes and a lot of shows on this between Discovery and the Travel Channel. But what I'm talking about is Isla de las Muñecas, which is in Mexico. It's also known as the Island of Dolls. Located just outside of Mexico City in the borough of Xochimilco, and I'm so sorry if I pronounce this incorrectly. I did look up the best pronunciations of those. So, like I said, it's in Xochimilco, and this island is filled with trees adorned with the dolls hanging from many of their branches. The local legend states that the dolls are homage to the lost soul of a young girl who drowned with a mysterious circumstance. The caretaker of the island who found that girl strung up her doll that he had found with her body as a memorial to her. The caretaker then found himself haunted by the girl, and in an attempt to protect himself from her spirit, he spent the next 50 years hanging countless dolls until he was found drowned near the island himself. Many have visited this island and tell stories of mysterious noises, laughter, and the dolls of the island moving and watching them, as well as other items happening within the island itself. Many locals will not go there or take you there and warn against you doing so at any time. Now, I had just said that I'd seen many shows on this on Discovery Channel. I think the most notable to me was, Expedition Unknown, I believe it was, where they had actually gone to this island, and the caretaker who was found dead at that time was still alive and welcomed them and showed them around the island. He then passed, after that show had been filmed, and kind of adds a little bit of a spooky aspect to the forests. But that's all I have for you guys today, and I'd like to thank you so much for listening in. One big thing that I want to say before I conclude this episode is these forests are based off of some research I've done, and some of the cooler stories. I did take some out that were a little bit too dark for a family-friendly podcast or a PG podcast, whichever way you would like to call it. So places like Suicide Forest in Japan and other items like that, I decided to steer away from today. Otherwise, this list would be much longer. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. And if you want to tell me any of your haunted forest stories, please email info@headingnorthpodcast.com, and I could even post some of those up on the website or on social media over the next few days. If you liked anything you heard in this episode, make sure you go to headingnorthpodcast.com. And as always, music in this episode was by Asylum and Music Media Works. If you want to find Heading North Podcast on social media, you can search Heading North Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, or Instagram Pod on Twitter. To support what it is I do here, you can go to patreon.com/Heading North Podcast, or you can go over and pick up awesome merch like May the Forest Be With You t-shirts at headingnorthpodcast.com/shop. But the best way to support the show is to like and review Heading North Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.